Now let's learn about accessories and sewing. This includes the facial features section, the belly, short tail section, the body section, the long tail feathers section, the hanging decoration section. Let's start with the facial features section. First, sew together the eyepieces. Then assemble the eyes and mouth. Finally, embroider the eyelashes. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific making method. First, take out one of the head pieces. Make sure the last row has the right side facing you. Here, I'll use a sample for demonstration. The color scheme is not for reference. Take out the eyes piece. Divide the yarn tail into 3 strands. Thread the remaining 2 strands into the sewing needle. Weave them on the wrong side. Then thread the 3 strands into a thin needle. Place the eyes piece with the right side facing up. Position it slightly above the center on both sides of the head piece. Leave a space of about 2 mm between the 2 eyes. The top should be around 1 cm away from the top edge. Use the remaining yarn to sew along the edge stitches of the eyes piece. Attach it securely to the head piece. While sewing, make sure the head piece stands out slightly forward. Avoid visible sewing marks on the right side. Pay attention to not catch the stitches on the sides. After finishing, tie a knot and weave in the ends on the wrong side. Sew the other eyepiece symmetrically. Everyone can now complete this part. Next, let's make the eyeballs. Take the pin-inserted eyeballs and the circular shiny pieces. Insert the pin-inserted eyeballs through the hole of the shiny piece. Then insert it into the first round of the eyepiece. Position both eyes slightly towards the middle. You can place them a little lower if you like. The placement of the sample can be random. Thread it to the wrong side. The exact position can be adjusted according to your preference. Move the excess part of the shiny piece to the sides. Try to make it symmetrical and aesthetically pleasing. After confirming that the position fits properly, apply glue on the pin-inserted eyeballs. Mindful not to apply too much. You can also secure between the shiny piece and the pin-inserted eyeballs if needed. Once the glue dries, you can trim or bend the excess part behind. This completes the eyes. Next, make the mouth. Take out a circular shiny piece, trim it into a fan shape with a radius of about 3 millimeters. Glue it onto the middle between the eyes. Align its top edge with the bottom edge of the eyepiece. The exact position can be adjusted according to your preference. This completes the mouth. Lastly, embroider the eyelashes. Take out the corresponding yarn. Thread the needle with one strand of yarn on the eyepiece. Embroider 2 upward curving eyelashes on each side above. And one below. Embroider symmetrically on the other side. You can slightly carry the yarn on the backside if needed. After completing, tie a knot and cut the thread on the wrong side. Pay attention to keeping the piece flat. This completes the facial features section. Next, make the belly, short tail part. First, crochet slip stitches as decoration on the belly piece. Then sew the left and right legs together. Next, embroider the flower branches. Finally, secure the accessory on the short tail. Please watch the demonstration. Take out the belly piece first, with the right side facing you. Take out the corresponding yarn. Join the yarn at any stitch in the last round of the belly piece. For this sample, join the yarn at the slip stitch position. Leave a yarn tail on the wrong side, then pick up stitches and work slip stitches. There's no need to tighten here. If your tension is tight, you can slightly enlarge the loop before crocheting. This ensures the piece stays flat. When you reach the middle 3 single crochets of the HDC 2-in-1, work a slip stitch in the first single crochet. For the next single crochet position, work a slip stitch at its insertion point. Continue working slip stitches at the left single crochet positions. Move downward and keep picking up stitch positions to work slip stitches. This will form a shape like this at the top. Continue crocheting until you complete the entire round. After finishing the last position, stretch the loop, leave a 10 cm yarn tail, then cut the yarn. Thread it through a sewing needle. Pass it under the braid where the slip stitches began. Then bring it back through the braid where the yarn tail is located. Then pass it to the wrong side. Adjust slightly. This way, the seam won't be visible on the surface where you fastened off. Tie a knot on the wrong side and cut the yarn. That completes the decorative slip stitch. Next, sew together the left and right legs. Separate 2 strands from the reserved yarn tail, and weave them on the wrong side. Thread the remaining 3 strands through the sewing needle. Then align the beginning stitches of the left and right legs upward, with the right side facing you. Place it on the belly piece closer to the shorter tail side. The tip should be positioned approximately 4 mm apart, centered and symmetrical. Both curved sides should align closely with the decorative slip stitch. The whole piece takes up about half of the belly piece. At the top center, be mindful of leaving around 1 cm space. Here, the piece is not even. When sewing, pay attention to slightly raising the convex part of the piece. Confirm the position. Use the reserved yarn tail to sew along the edge and secure it in place. Be careful not to sew onto the decorative slip stitch. Adjust the position while sewing. After completing, tie off and weave in the ends. Sew the other leg in the same way. Everyone, go ahead and finish it. Everyone, take a look. This is the sample looks like after completing both legs. Next, make the flower branches. Take out the corresponding yarn. Cut about 50 centimeters of it. Thread 3 strands through the thin needle. From the bottom of the right side of the belly piece, diagonally embroider a flower branch upwards. Stop at the third or fourth circle from the top, approximately at this position. You can watch my demonstration first before embroidering. Start by tying a knot on the wrong side. Come out through the edge of the slip stitch decoration. Try to stay as close to the left as possible. Then embroider 4 line segments. Embroider a fork in the middle. The specific shape of the flower branch here can also be adjusted according to your preference. After completing, tie off and weave in the ends. Next, take a piece of yarn, used for crocheting the belly piece. Thread 3 strands through the thin needle. Make sure the needle can pass through the beads. Secure one seed bead at each end of the line segment. Note that the colors of the seed beads are random. You can choose according to your own preference. That's how you make the flower branch. Next, move the yarn to the second row of the short tail. At a position slightly off center. Secure a yellow acrylic diamond in the center. After completing, on both sides, secure one of the smallest pearls each, approximately at the boundary between the second and third rows. Finally, tie off and weave in the ends. That completes the short tail accessory. That concludes the explanation for the belly and short tail section. Next, let's learn how to work on the body section. First, crochet slip stitch decorations on the body piece. Then secure the shells and sequins. Please watch the demonstration. Take out the body piece. Here, I'll use a small sample for the demonstration. Crochet slip stitch decorations at the insertion points of the last row on the right side. The method is similar to the slip stitch decoration on the belly piece. While crocheting, you can also weave the yarn tail in. After finishing the last stitch position, break the yarn. Weave in the yarn tails. For the other body piece, follow the same method to crochet the slip stitch decoration. Everyone can now complete this part. Then, on both sides of one body piece, secure the shells and sequins. Take the thread in the same way as when securing seed beads. First, secure the thread on the wrong side. Then exit through the other side of the piece. Here, take the belly piece. Place it vertically centered in the middle of the body piece. Do not secure any decorations where the belly piece will cover. On both sides, along the edge and slightly above. Secure 2 shells and 4 sequins in flower shapes. The specific positions, quantities, and colors of the sequins can be chosen according to your preference. In this step, I'll secure one sequin first. Remember, the opening must face up. Secure a tiny pearl in the middle. Or one seed bead. Everyone can choose according to their preference. Thread it back. One sequin is now secured. Continue to secure a shell. Shells may vary depending on the style of the colorway. The securing method is identical to the sequin. In the middle, always secure a small pearl. You can also secure just one small pearl alone. In the actual project, only one side has the small pearl secured. Everyone can decide according to their preference. Use this method to secure the remaining decorations. After one side is finished, carry the yarn across to the other side. Continue securing. You all can complete it. Everyone, take a look. This is the sample with the shells and sequins secured looks like when done. The specific layout can also be adjusted according to your own preference. This way, the decorative elements for the body section are completed. Next, we'll make the long tail feather section. Start by embroidering the stripe decorations. Then sew the head piece, the body piece, the long tail piece, and the belly piece together. And add the stuffing. Finally, add the water drop beads. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific making method. First, embroider the stripe decoration on the long tail piece. Here, I'll use a sample to demonstrate. Take the corresponding yarn. On the wrong side of the long tail piece, about 0.5 centimeters away from the edge, secure the yarn. Then thread along the chain-like texture on the right side. Pay attention to leave about 1 centimeter of space at this edge. Try to keep the line as close to the piece as possible. Exit from the original position. Then thread to the next identical texture position. The exact threading position can also be adjusted according to your preference, as long as you create a pattern of stripes that corresponds on both the right and wrong sides. Follow this method to thread through all the designated positions. After completing, tie off and weave in the ends at the side edge. This completes the stripe decoration for the long tail section. Next, we will embroider the stripe decoration for the feather part. Join the same color yarn at the position on the wrong side. Then exit from the last row of stitches on the body. Pull through to the third slip stitch position of the feather. Follow along the groove. Thread near the approximate position of the first stitch at the edge. Continue threading the yarn with the texture of half stitches, skipping every 2 stripes. The specific threading positions and lengths can also be adjusted according to your own preferences. Finally, tie off and weave in the ends. Use the same method for the other feather. Embroider the stripe decoration on the right side. Once everyone has completed it, the explanation of the stripe decoration is finished. Next, sew all the pieces together. First, take one piece for the head, and one body piece. The sample here uses these two sewn together decorative sections as an example. Both right sides should face you. Pick up the last row of the head piece through the back loop of the stitches, and match them with the corresponding stitches in the middle of the body piece. So, using the plain stitch method, you can first locate the middle of the body piece, matching it with the stitch count of the last row of the head piece. Mark it with a stitch marker. It doesn't matter if you slightly offset one stitch to one side here. Start by picking up the stitch on the far right. Insert through the back loop, and then the back loop of the next stitch. Pull through. On the other side, similarly pick up the back loops of these stitches. Insert first, then exit through the left loop. Slightly tighten. Then insert back into the previous exit point. Pick up the back loop of the next stitch. Pull through. Similarly, insert and exit in the same position on the other side. Exit through the middle of the left stitch. After sewing a few stitches, tighten the yarn. This will create this effect. Repeat this process. Continue picking these half loops and sew them together. Tighten the yarn after sewing a few stitches. Once finished, bring the yarn to the wrong side. Tie off the yarn tail and weave it. Next, take another head piece and body piece. Following the same method, sew them together. Complete this step. To make sewing easier, we will sew the belly piece first. Secure it to the side of the body piece with the eyes. Divide the reserved yarn tail into 3 strands. Thread them through the sewing needle. Weave the remaining 2 strands on the wrong side. Keep the short tail pointing downward, with the right side facing you. Place it above the mouth. Leave a space of about 2 millimeters. Pay attention to keeping it centered and symmetrical. The body has a certain curve when stuffed from behind. When sewing, be mindful to slightly bend backward. First, carry the yarn to where they meet. Then insert it into the placement for the slip stitch decoration. Sew it onto the piece. Be sure to stitch out from the inside. Try to make the seam as invisible as possible. Be careful not to sew onto the edge stitches. The two pieces should stick close together. Finish sewing at the connecting position. Note: do not sew the slip stitch decoration area. Tie off and weave in the ends neatly. Below, thread one of the body piece's yarn tails into a needle. Whip stitch the top parts of the front and back two body pieces together. Make sure the right sides are both facing out. Start by inserting through the corner chain and slip stitch. Continue inserting through the corresponding two stitches to sew them together. At the head corner, you can add a few more stitches. Don't leave any holes. Then whip stitch the second to last row of stitches on the head piece together. Be careful not to sew onto the eyes piece. Pay attention and reinforce stitching at the corners. Continue sewing the body piece. Finish stitching along the edge. Tie off and weave in the yarn tail on the wrong side. That's how you complete the top section. Next, take the long tail piece. Thread the tail end into a sewing needle. Align the right side with the belly part. Place the side edges at the centered position of the body piece. Roughly secure it near the back piece. If you feel the stripe decoration isn't lying flat enough here, you can apply a little glue to slightly secure it to the piece. Try not to leave obvious adhesive marks. Everyone can choose according to their own preference. Pick up a strand just above the slip stitch decoration to secure it. Roughly center it here for attachment. Make sure there are no visible marks on the right side. Continue threading the yarn tail of the other body piece into a sewing needle. Follow the insertion points of the slip stitch decoration. Stitch both sides of the body pieces together. Be mindful to insert along the inside. Make sure not to sew over the slip stitch decoration. Slightly tighten the yarn. Avoid showing any sewing marks. Match up the front and back as much as possible. Stitch a bit more tightly. Continue sewing downward. When you reach the long tail piece position, sew it in together. Be careful not to sew in the belly part. When half of the remaining distance is reached, add the stuffing into the piece. You can use the hook handle to assist here. Stuff along the edge. Add an appropriate amount of spices in the middle. The quantity here can be adjusted according to your preference. Try to make the stuffing firm, even, and elastic. Continue sewing while stuffing. After finishing all the sewing, tie off and weave in the ends. Finally, tidy up the belly and short tail areas. Tidy up the long tail piece as well. Apply glue and secure it to the piece below. You can attach the feather sections if you like, or you can choose not to attach them. Just select based on your preference. This completes the sewing of the pieces. Finally, secure one water drop bead at each tip of the long tail. Take out the yarn used for crocheting the long tail piece. Pull 3 strands through a thin needle. Weave in the ends first. Then sew and secure it in place. If the wire is sticking out here, you can secure the wire together. Then tie off and weave in the ends. Fix the other water drop bead using the same method. Everyone can now complete this part. That concludes the explanation of the long tail and feather section. Next, we'll learn about the hanging decorations. This includes feather hanging decorations, tassel hanging decorations, long hanging strings and short hanging strings. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific making method. Let's start with the feather hanging decoration. Cut a piece of corresponding yarn. Insert it into the beading needle. String on 2 medium-sized pearls. Then add 1 dark-colored leaf, followed by 1 flower-shaped sequin. Pay attention, the colors of the sequins may vary depending on the colorway. It should match the color of the small glass bead that comes next. Mind the orientation of the sequin. The color of the glass beads should be based on the actual product you receive. You can refer to the finished product for more details. The sample colors are random. Continue inserting the same colored sequins. Wrap the glass bead. Add 1 light-colored leaf. Then string on 2 medium-sized pearls. Followed by 1 glazed leaf. Note that the colors of the leaves may vary depending on the style here. Then thread back through the same path. Pay attention not to insert the thread into the line. Adjust the tension properly. Leave a 10 cm tail and cut off. Thread it into the sewing needle. Secure it in the centered position on both sides of the feather. Note that you should thread both pieces of the feather together. Tie a knot with the yarn tail. Weave the tails and the feather respectively, and that's it. Make the feather hanging on the other side using the same method. Everyone can now finish it. Next, make the tassel hanging. Take out the metal motif. Attach 2 strings of hangings on both side holes at the bottom and secure them. The method for hanging these hangings is similar to the feather hanging. Just remove the 2 leaves. The small sample has already been pre-threaded. Now, secure it to the holes. Tie a double knot with the thread. Make sure the tension is loose enough. Weave the tail end inside the bead. You can secure the other side using the same method. Now, let's fix the hanging at the middle hole position. Take the thread as before. Insert 1 medium-sized pearl. A sequin. A small glass bead. A sequin. 2 medium-sized pearls. A sequin. 1 red glass bead. A sequin. 1 medium-sized pearl. Pass it through the tassel. Go back the same way. Tie off and weave the tail at the middle hole. The method is identical to before. Everyone can now finish it. Continue by taking the thread again, pass it through a lobster clasp. 1 medium-sized pearl. A sequin. A red glass bead. A sequin. A medium-sized pearl. Pass it through the top hole of the metal motif. Go back through the same way. Do not pass it through the lobster clasp. Then tie off and weave in the end. Make sure to weave the other tail as well. Finally, clip the lobster clasp to the middle position, on the wrong side of the feather. And the tassel hanging decoration is now completed. Next, let's make the long hanging string. Here, both short and long hanging strings can be chosen based on your own needs for making. First, take one closed jump ring. Open it. Pass it through the position slightly above the middle of the backside head. Close it. Rotate the connection point to the inside of the piece. Both the short and long hanging strings will eventually be attached to this ring. Next, make the long hanging string. Take out the corresponding yarn. Crochet chains. The exact length can be referenced from the chart. It can also be adjusted according to your needs. After completing, leave a 10 centimeter tail, and cut the yarn. Then thread the yarn tail through a beading needle. Pass it through the lobster clasp. Place it in the middle of the chain. Then thread it through one small glass bead. The color of the sample is random. 2 large pearls. 1 red glass bead. 2 large pearls. 2 small glass beads. Then tie a knot at the end. Trim excess tail. Thread beads in the same order symmetrically on the other end. Tie a knot and cut the yarn at the end as well. Everyone, please complete it. Next, you need to tie a knot on the cord. Separate the beads with intervals. Align them centered. Tie one knot about 6 centimeters away from the side. Leave 2 beads. Tie a knot right next to the beads. Secure it between the 2 knots. Continue tying a knot every 6 centimeters. Leave the red glass bead, and the pearls on both sides. Tie a knot. Tie a knot every 6 centimeters. Leave 2 beads. Tie a knot. Move the remaining beads to the end. Use the same method to tie symmetrical knots on the other side. Everyone can now finish it. Finally, wrap both ends with yarn and tie an elastic knot. Reserve about 10 centimeters of length at one end for the finishing touch. Wrap it twice around the braid on the other end. Then pass it through the hole. Adjust it a little. Reserve a length of about 7 centimeters at the end. Neaten up the knot to make it look nice. Pull as tight as possible. Do the same for the other end. Then adjust it again. When adjusting the hanging string's length, pull on both ends of the chains. Finally, attach the lobster clasp from the long hanging string to the circle. That completes the long hanging string. Next, make the short hanging string. Take out the corresponding yarn. Reserve a length of yarn that's a bit more than 3 times the desired hanging string length. Then tie a knot. Place the reserved yarn over the hook from front to back. Yarn over. Pull through together. Continue by placing the yarn over the hook from front to back again. Be mindful not to pull too tight. Draw through. Repeat the previous steps. Keep crocheting until you reach the desired length. After completing, leave a 10 centimeter tail, and cut the yarn. Insert the yarn tail into a beading needle. Pass it through from where you started. Thread on 1 medium purl. One small glass bead. One medium purl. Take one of the yarn tails. Pass it through a lobster clasp. Tie the 2 yarn tails with a double knot. Weave in the ends. Do the same for the other tail, and weave it in as well. This completes the short hanging string. Clip it into the circle. Up to this point, the tutorial for making the large swallow is complete. Finally, let's learn how to make the small swallow section. The overall crocheting and sewing technique for the small swallow is similar to the large swallow. There are a few points to keep in mind. First, the number of rows or rounds for the crocheted parts, and the stitch count is less than that of the large swallow. You need to follow the corresponding chart while crocheting. For example, the small piece for the small swallow only has 2 rows. Both are crocheted from right to left. The eye only has 1 round, and it has more stitches. After finishing off at the end, weave the starting yarn tail into the wrong side. When crocheting the long tail part, there's no need to add thin wire. After completing it, crochet slip stitches along these 3 edges. This will make it stiff and shaped. Below, I'll demonstrate the slip stitch using this small sample. Place the right side facing up, on the right side of the last row. Pick up 1 strand to join the yarn. You can also pick up a chain to join the yarn like this. Then work slip stitches correspondingly. While crocheting, you can weave in the yarn tails together. The textures formed by the 2 crochet techniques are slightly different. Choose based on your preference. As long as the final surface texture looks nice, that's fine. When you reach the side edge position, pick up approximately the right spot and work a slip stitch. Pay attention to keeping the piece flat. At the starting chain, pick an appropriate spot to begin crocheting. Finally, fasten off the yarn. Weave the yarn tails on the wrong side. This completes the shaping of the long tail piece. Next, we'll cover the accessory section. For small swallow's facial features, there's no need to embroider eyelashes. Insert the needle into the edge stitches of the piece to create the eyes. The mouth can be made a little smaller. Only 2 sequins are needed for the body part. The exact number can also be adjusted according to your preference. Use slip stitches for decoration on the upper part of the belly. Locate the middle single crochet position at the top. Insert your hook into the entry position and slip stitch. There's no need to make a hanging decoration for this accessory section. Just sew the brooch onto the back. Below, I will demonstrate how to sew the brooch. Here, I'll use a small sample for demonstration. Cut a piece of yarn and thread it into the needle. Place the brooch in the center of the back side of the body. Leave 1 row of space between the top and the sewing position. Choose the direction of the brooch opening based on your own preference. Pick up the strands and insert them into the holes to sew. Carry the yarn across through the piece in the middle. Finally, transition the yarn back to the starting position. Tie a knot. Weave in the yarn tail. Try to pull the knot as far inside the piece as possible. Similarly, weave the other yarn tail inside the piece. That's it, the brooch is now sewn on. Small Swallow has explained. Up to this point, the entire hanging has been fully explained. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our customer service, Susan's Family. Supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next episode.